lush green carpet of paddy fields is a common sight in rural India. Rice has been a staple food of Indians since time immemorial. India treasured more than 35,000 varieties of rice grain a century ago. The rich diversity no longer exists, and thanks to science, only 100 varieties exist today. The so-called pest resistance, disease resistance, and genetically modified seeds have taken over the market. And ironically, the self-reliant farmer of the bygone era is heavily dependent on the hybrid seeds, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides of the multinational. Under these circumstances, the saga of Kailash Murthy begins. A decade ago, Kailash Murthy too, like all other farmers, used fertilizers and pesticides as specified by the agricultural experts. He proudly displayed a record yield in his neighborhood. But to his dismay, he observed that the yield grew less and less each year. Kailash Murthy, a bank employee by profession and a farmer by conviction, observed that the savages brought about by intensive artificial inputs like fertilizers and chemicals decreased the soil fertility, increased soil erosion, and destroyed the food chain of predator and prey population. During this period, the inquisitive Murthy stumbled upon the book One Straw Revolution, written by a Japanese farmer, Masanobu Fukuoka, a pioneer in natural farming and Ramon Magsaysay Award winner. The book inspired him further to read the Shastras. And reading the Shastras revealed that India was not new to natural farming. Many rishis grew their entire food around the ashram without plowing. They believed food grown without plowing is healthier. Manu discusses in his famous Manu Smriti and asserts that deeper the digging, the more harmful for the soil. So, Mr. Murthy gave the established farming a break and left the land to itself. No tilling, no chemical fertilizers, and no use of pesticides. In short, nothing except scattering of seeds at random. The farmers in the neighborhood were aghast with the idea of not plowing or digging the land before sowing the seeds. Placing the seeds or scattering them on the ground was totally unconventional and hard to accept it. But surprisingly, within 2 years, the transformation was remarkable. The natural balance of soil was restored, and the 6.5 acres of land transformed itself into a mini forest, a self-sustaining ecosystem. More than 3,000 varieties, including many medicinal plants, spurt out. The interplay of natural forces and the presence of a variety of species enhanced the soil fertility. This silent revolution in the field of agriculture, without the use of established methods, not only attracted the nearby farmers, but also scientists from various disciplines. They were flabbergasted to notice, barring electricity to lift water, no outside agents were used to raise crops. Mr. Murthy by using natural seeds, has grown a record 33 quintals per acre as to 18 quintals by his neighbors who are using modern tools and techniques. Mr. Kailash Murthy proudly says that in zero farming or natural farming, the input is zero and the output is plentiful. After 1 decade, he is completely self-sufficient. He no longer invests money on seeds, fertilizers or pesticides. The remarkable results have proved wrong all the agricultural scientists who claim that yield is directly related to the use of hybrid varieties, chemical fertilizers and pest control techniques. The former critics who laughed and ridiculed him are today slowly converting to natural farming. Foreigners and experts in natural farming are frequent visitors at Murthy's farm. The mini forest in a dry terrain is being treated as a research laboratory. Kailash Murthy spends most of his free time in grooming the new generation to create awareness on the hazards of chemical farming and the innumerable benefits of natural farming. He strongly believes that going back to nature is the only answer to all the present farming problems. The voice of the naturalists is louder and clearer. They vehemently declare that the conventional knowledge of agriculture is not only worthless but actually harmful to the soil, plants and the environment as a whole. So, they are strongly recommending the 4 principles to be adopted in natural farming. No cultivation, no chemical fertilizers, no weeding by tillage or weedicides, and no dependence on chemicals. The earth cultivates itself naturally by means of the penetration of plant roots and the activities of microorganisms, ants, earthworms, reptiles and small birds. Tilling also causes soil erosion, besides destructing soil microbes and biomass that retains moisture. When natural area is brought under the plough, very strong weeds such as crabgrass and docks sometimes come out to dominate the vegetation. When these weeds take hold, the farmer is faced with a nearly impossible task of weeding each year. Organic remains are decomposed on the surface by bacteria and fungi with the movement of rainwater. The nutrients are taken deep into the soil to become food for the microorganisms, earthworms and small animals. Plants' roots reach the lower soil strates and draw the nutrients back to the surface. A tree that grows on a mountainside or forest is an ideal example. The fertility of nature, as it is beyond the reach of the imagination. Hence, the stray dead leaves, chaff that covers the earth must be left undisturbed. All these not only turn into natural humus but also retain moisture from evaporation. Mr. Kailash Murthy plants radish between the mulberry plants to curb the weeds. The radish acts as a natural weedicide. In nature, there are many more such edible plants that act as natural weedicides. And some weeds can be brought under control by natural balance and diversity of plants. Gentle measures such as spreading dry straw and sowing clover are practiced instead of using man-made chemicals and machinery to wage war of annihilations. Sowing seeds while the preceding crop is still ripening in the field also controls weeds. Hence, timing the seeding in such a way that there is no interval between succeeding crops gives the grain a great advantage over the weeds. Pesticides are quite effective in the short run but cause great harm to the plants, soil, animals and humans when used consistently. Monoculture of 1 or 2 crops a year leads to pests menace as the food supply is restricted. Hence, natural way of controlling pests is to grow multiple crops. In a perfect ecosystem, predator-prey population is well balanced and loss by pests is negligible. Pratap Agarwal, a naturalist, says that in the last 5 decades, we have inflicted tremendous damage to the land, as a result of which agricultural output worldwide is stagnating and the yield is declining. Zero farming or Rishi farming is the only answer. Even if a fraction of ordinary farmers adopted Rishi Kheti, it could have catastrophic effect on the agro-business establishments and the entire urban industrial structure might collapse. But will the powerful forces allow the silent revolution to prosper? Only time will tell.